Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So a lot has been going on. We've seen that we've had the first transgender Miss Netherlands crowned recently, and you know, things are getting more and more crazy. It seems like women's spaces, women's events, women's pageants, women's sports, women's bathrooms are slowly more and more being invaded by biological males. And we don't even have breastfeeding anymore. Well, that's no longer exclusive to women, apparently. And it's not even about the women in that situation, that's about the child. That's a completely different video, so I will be getting into that. But for now, I want to start off with some good news. So we had Austin Killips, the transgender individual who was dominating women's cycling. Austin won the Union Cycliste Internationale event, the first trans athlete to win that, biological male. And Austin also won a North Carolina event recently where the prize money was $5,000. Austin ran off with that prize money. But finally, the union behind these cycling events, these women's cycling events, have now introduced a new category. They've basically said enough is enough of this and Austin must be stopped. That's some good news in women's sports that, you know, we can be thankful for. So I'm going to read their announcement and then I'm going to react to the whole Miss Netherlands.
Women's cycling champion Hannah Rensman quit the sport after losing to controversial transgender competitor Austin Killips in December, abandoning her dream of competing at the Paris Olympics in 2024. Footage from that race shows Killips shoving Rensman, causing outrage that the 6-foot-tall, very muscular born male used intimidation to get ahead. Well, last weekend, Austin Killips won another race in North Carolina by 5 entire minutes.
You've seen that. Not only was Austin using his physical advantage that he has over biological females, Austin was also physically pushing female athletes to the side. And because of having to compete against a biological male, a top female athlete felt that she was forced to retire. She quit. She missed out on a world championship and she just quit. Hannah Rensman. And that's who you saw there being pushed to the side. So this was literally pushing female athletes out of the sport, which is, I consider, tragic, because this was a top female athlete and she quit because of all of this. Anyway, let's take a look at the good news though regarding this whole situation. You know, a little late, but better late than never, I guess. However, how many female athletes have suffered because of this, including Hannah, including the other woman who lost out to Austin, lost out on the $5,000 prize money. So this was the announcement of the Belgian Waffle Ride, the organization behind these events. Monuments of Cycling and the Belgian Waffle Ride events are committed to ensuring that all participants have equal access and opportunities to participate in our cycling events in a fair manner while preserving the integrity of the sport and respecting international regulations. The organisation does so with the full extent to foster positive, world-class experiences that promote personal growth and healthy competition. Belgian Waffle Ride therefore adopts the following policies. Racing classifications. Beginning August 1, 2023, all Belgian Waffle Ride events will offer the following racing categories. Female. In the interest of protecting the parity of sports between women and men, racers who were born female may compete in this classification. Thank you. Very simple. Male. Racers who were born and or identify as male may compete in this classification. Okay, so if you are a trans man, you can compete with the other men if you want to. Okay, because you do not have a physical advantage. Open. All racers, regardless of gender identification, may compete in this classification. We will award equal amounts of prize money for each of these 3 categories. Typically, the top 3 of each category will be awarded prize money. Some races, the top 5 may be awarded prize money. Eligibility verification. Belgian Waffle Ride will not require proof of eligibility for racers competing in specific classifications before an event, preferring a self-selection honour policy that relies on the integrity of our participants to follow the registration criteria. The organisation may require, however, validation of eligibility of specific races on a case-by-case basis if needed to ensure the integrity of each classification. These instances may arise at the direction of the Belgian Waffle Ride leadership if race officials see a need to seek verification. Racers can also request confirmation of eligibility verification of competitors by Belgian Waffle Ride via an anonymous process. Belgian Waffle Ride will take all such requests into consideration. Great, so they're not going to be checking everybody. They're going to take your word for it that you are actually female, unless, you know, something is brought to their attention and they need to verify that. So that is great news. No more cases of seeing women being pushed, physically manhandled on the track, and, you know, no more cheating. This is what keeps it fair, and it's very simple. And what we're going to be seeing now is this is going to be an international occurrence. We're going to see this affect our international sports, our international events such as Miss Universe. That is an international event, obviously. And so, you know, this may not be a big thing in your country, but if it is in America, if it is in the Netherlands, you may find yourself having to compete with a biological male if you are an international competitor of some kind. And yeah, so let's take a look at this Miss Netherlands.
2023 is Rikkie!
Okay, when I first saw that footage, I was thinking, why are these women, why are they clapping for their very downfall? This is an event for women, and a biological male has come and taken your crown and you're clapping. But upon further reflection, when I look at their faces, you can see they're not too impressed. The smiles are kind of forced for most of them, and you can see it in their eyes. They're not impressed by this at all. So I think a lot of those women, you know, they probably don't want to speak out about it, but secretly they're not happy to see a man essentially take their crown. A man enter into the competition, which is for women, and basically win. And where does it stop? That is the question now. So a transgender woman has been crowned Miss Netherlands for the first time, setting up a historic shot at becoming Miss Universe. So again, this is going to affect our international events. So Rikkie Valerie Kollé, 22, held her hands over her mouth in shock as she was named the winner on Sunday to a soundtrack of the Sia song Unstoppable. I did it, Kollé wrote on Instagram, of her educational and beautiful journey. I'm so proud and happy, I can't even describe it. Making my community proud and showing it can be done, the newly crowned beauty queen wrote. Okay, it actually says some of the other finalists standing at the back of the stage looked at each other, with some appearing to grimace awkwardly at the unprecedented decision. The Miss Netherlands official Instagram page also celebrated the win by the beautiful trans contestant. The finalist shined throughout the show and has also made the greatest progress along the way, the pageant wrote of the judges' decision. And what we're also going to see are various organisations favouring the trans person because it's a photo opportunity. It puts them, you know, up there on the woke agenda. It elevates them. It lets the world know that we are on board with this. And there are some rewards, you know, for being on board with this whole thing. So we're going to see the trans person be favoured, like we did with, you know, Riley Gaines gave an example of how Leah Thomas received the trophy because she tied. She tied with Leah and they gave the trophy to Leah for the photo. Again, that's another unfair advantage. You allow these organizations to say they were the first, they were part of history, you know, the first this, the first that. You know, they're going to favor the trans person. And I think this has a lot to do with why this person won. And if this person had not won, some people would have said, oh, it's bigotry, it's transphobia. Why did the trans contestant not win? People don't want to be accused of that either. So again, they're more likely to favor the trans individual.
Talking of bathing suits, let's talk about Miss Netherlands. So at the weekend, Rikkie Valerie Kollé, who was a transgender entrant to Miss Netherlands competition, won the title. So a biological male has been voted Miss Netherlands and will now take part in Miss Universe. Michaela, your thoughts?
I hope he wins Miss Universe. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I don't even know how to react to these situations because women fought so hard to get where we are today. I was just looking at the picture of the Boston Marathon runner in 1967, and it's this woman, and she's being grabbed by men on the track because women weren't allowed to compete. That's where it started. And now we're here, and there are men competing in our sports, and I have no idea how feminism came full circle.
Exactly. Feminism now is being on board with this. Megan Rapinoe. Apparently, if you're a feminist, if you're for women's sports, you have to be for biological males competing against women. You have to be for that. I don't know how we've got here now. And apparently, women who stand up for women's sports are called TERFs. Apparently, that's derogatory. I don't know. Me, it sounds like you're on the right side of history if you're called a TERF.
It's so bizarre. And Kat, I mean, only yesterday, Megan Rapinoe, one of the great female sports stars in American history, came out on, as she retires, which might be convenient timing because it won't apply to her, and said, I'd be very happy if trans athlete sports women come and play in the American women's team. Well, fine, but what happens if they're all 11 biological males representing the American women's team? I mean,
the US women's soccer team lost 12-0 to some older Welshmen. 12-0. They couldn't even score one goal. She knows, Megan Rapinoe, she knows what the repercussions of this is going to be. But because she's retired, she has no problem throwing younger athletes under the bus so that she can make a name for herself, standing up for the trans athletes. She should be the first person speaking up against this. But of course, she's apparently for it. Now that it doesn't affect her, and she doesn't have to compete against biological males like her teammates had to, for fun. That was just for fun, but it didn't look like much fun losing by such a degree. Now that it doesn't affect her, she's all for it. Absolutely disgraceful. Because you don't want the mob to come for you. You're going along with it and acting like it's okay. And again, it's going to affect international sports. It's going to affect people whose countries are not even on board with this. And they're going to now encounter the team with the trans athlete. You always seem to win. Oh, funny that.
this can't be right, surely.
I think what's even worse is people saying that if you have some issue with a biological male competing in sports, then the only reason for that is that you're transphobic and not the research that you can point to that shows that someone who's gone through male puberty could have various advantages over a biological woman in these activities, in these sports. It's not a zero-sum game when it's these conversations. There's scholarships, there's different things on the line there. And I think that that really just taints the whole entire issue. When it comes to pageants, I do want to get on the record that I think pageants are lame.
Well, back to what she was saying about, you know, having to do your research and argue your point. It's not even up for debate. There are male categories and there are female categories for a reason. So this isn't even debatable. This is how sports is broken down. Male and female. Even different age ranges. Different weight divisions. There are various categories in sports simply for fairness. And that's it. So men and women do not compete together. They don't. So that doesn't change just because somebody wants to identify as a woman. It doesn't change. The advantages are still there. The advantages that one has over the other still exist, regardless of how someone identifies. It doesn't just magically go away. Male and female sports exist for a reason. So you don't even have to argue this with people. This is a scientific fact. This is a biological fact. Men have advantages over women. That's why they compete with other men. And pageants can open doors for girls. You know, it can open doors to scholarships. It can open doors to opportunities. And as for Miss Netherlands, you know, these women, when they win these pageants, they do community work. So this person's going to go around, you know, interacting with children and all of that, presenting themselves as a woman. Again, it's opening the door to this whole trans agenda. This is what's going to be normalized to our children, because that's the work that these winners do. Miss so-and-so, Miss Universe, Miss Netherlands, whatever, they do work within the community. So, you know, I'm not on board with that.
Right. I mean, that could be a perfectly reasonable argument that they're all lame. But Tara, you know, it seems to me like every aspect of womanhood is, for want of a better phrase, under attack from the trans lobby that basically want to have their rights superseding women's rights to just be competing against other females.
Now, to be fair, my opinion is going to be skewed because I do identify as a phobic. So I am phobic on everything. So the idea that, what does it say about women that a man can just switch and be a woman and inside of 6 months win everything? So, you know, where are the feminists? Turns out the feminists are the alpha males. Because
apparently men are better at being women than women are.
We're the only ones complaining about this. Right. And I think it's whenever, you always have to follow the money. Whenever somebody comes out and says, I think this, and doesn't make sense with the soccer player, I guarantee you, if a trans man took her job, yes, that would not be the conversation.
Oh, it may have.
You know, and it's just like the same thing with like the equal pay thing. When you do the math, they actually were making more than the men. So it just goes back to narratives. They say things. There's no way, I don't care what makeup, hair, or whatever, that any man who transitions is going to be more beautiful than a woman. It's just not. Pageants, the scholarships, the modeling jobs that go with it, it's political. You can't tell me like that, and I don't know, that person can be the nicest person in the world, but there's no way that is the best representation of a woman.
Also, when Megan Rapinoe talks about this, she likes to position herself as all about equality. She fought a very good campaign for the women players to be paid the same as the men. Great.
She fought for the advancement of women's sports. Does she really think biological males competing in football or soccer is going to advance women's soccer? Does she really think that? No, she knows. She knows. You put yourself out there, somebody who wants to advance women's soccer. You want women to get paid more. You want women to get, you know, more recognition. But now you're saying that biological males can compete with the women?
Okay, they get big audiences, they're world champions. I can sign up to that. But what's equal about allowing people with an obvious physical advantage to come in and decimate women's sport? It's not equal. So you can be all about equality, right to the point you say this stuff, then you're not about equality. Talking of equal.
Megan Rapinoe, huge disappointment. A huge hypocrite too. You can't claim to be, you know, your whole career, you weren't just an athlete, you were a spokeswoman, and you put yourself out there as a champion of women's sports, a champion of women's soccer. And now you're saying, because you want to go down the political route, I guess, you want to make a name for yourself now that you've retired. Now you're saying that biological males can compete against women. You know, even on the same team as women, that team's going to have an advantage, but that team is competing against other teams of women. And also, it's not just the sports itself, it's also the other implications. Women are going to be put in even more uncomfortable situations because of this. And the people championing all of this are women. Doesn't make any sense.
All of a sudden, it got dead silent. I turn around, this person's towering over every other person in the locker room, drops the clothes, full male, like a fully intact male with male genitalia.
Did the NCAA embrace your diversity? Tell me what attempts that the NCAA made to accommodate you and other female swimmers who felt uncomfortable sharing an open locker room with a biological male.
Nothing. They actually made us feel guilty for feeling as if we were uncomfortable. Time and time again, that's what we saw. There was even a group of girls who undress in the janitor's closet. They changed clothes in the janitor's closet because they felt more comfortable undressing in that environment than they did undressing next to someone with male gaze.
And were they doing that because they were transphobic?
They were doing it because they were violated.
Tell me how they were violated.
I think 2, 3, 4 years ago, if a man claims the identity of simply saying they are a woman, walks into a locker room, a DA would follow this man into a locker room, arrest him, and he's charged with sexual harassment, voyeurism, indecent exposure, and the list goes on. But this was celebrated. This was encouraged. Leah Thomas was then nominated for NCAA Woman of the Year, which is an award that I was also nominated for. But when I saw the full list of nominees and saw that NCAA Woman of the Year was not exclusive to just women, the award was immediately devalued and meaningless to me. That's how they were honoring this, rather than making us feel reassured in our feelings that this was wrong.
When you accommodate men time and time again, refusing to accommodate women, we call that misogyny. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank goodness for Sharon Davis, Martina Navratilova, Riley Gaines, female athletes who are actually standing up for the younger women who have to compete against biological males now, find themselves having to deal with this. Thank goodness for those athletes. Because if it wasn't for them, you know, we'd question, are we going crazy? Are we crazy? No, we know we're not. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.